Yes. Voice not clear. I think problem is our side. Everyone is saying it's clear. Yes, boss. Other day we have seen internationalization support. Yeah, you have to sync, no option. Yeah, using application context container, we discussed about how to perform internationalization. Okay. So then we found see, remaining all facilities of application context we studied already. Internationalization is the new topic. That's why we discussed in last class, right? Event handling is also there to discuss. I will launch at right time. But popular interview question is, what is the difference between what? Bean factory and application context container. One side bean factory, other side what? Application context. What is bean factory container? It is the object of a class that implements bean factory interface, either directly or indirect. What do you mean by application context container? It is the object of a class that implements what? Application context interface, either directly or indirect. It is subset of application context container. Come on. It is superset of what? Bean factory container. What are the examples to create a bean factory? XML bean factory. For application context, what is that? File system XML application context. Right. Does not support pre-instantiation of folders directly. Some additional configurations are required or not required. There is a direct support for property file and what? Placeholders. Great. No support for internationalization. Supports what? Internationalization. Does not support what? Event handling. Other side supports. Does not give direct support for annotation driven configurations and what? 100%. Only XML driven configuration. It supports all the things. Allows only XML file as what? Spring Bean configuration file. When it comes to application context container, it allows XML file as Spring Bean configuration file and also allows configuration class as Spring Bean configuration class. Cannot think about using in Spring Boot programming. Okay, required in what? Spring Boot programming. Suitable for memory and resource sensitive applications. What guys? If less memory is there for application to execute. Mostly used Spring container is in most of the Spring applications and what? Spring Boot application. This container can be stopped or cannot be stopped or what? Closed. This container can be stopped or closed or what? Refresh. Anything can be done. Resource object is required to pass what? Spring Bean configuration file. Nothing but XML file. We can pass Spring Bean configuration file directly while creating this what? IOC container. Nothing but XML file. No need of what? Resource object. Clear? This is what? Lightweight container. Other one is what? Bit heavyweight container compared to Bean factory container. Bit heavyweight container compared to what? Bean factory, guys. Okay, that's great. Now let's see what is this. Using Bean factory container, we cannot keep track of when IOC container is started, stopped, or closed. That means no support for event handling. Using application context, we can do it or not. For Bean factory container, we can give inputs only through XML file. Whereas in application context container, we can give inputs to IOC container using only XML file or XML plus annotations or using what? Java code plus annotations, right? Okay. Both Spring Boot frameworks use same IOC container. In Spring programming, we use both what? Bean factory and application context container. Whereas in Spring Boot programming, we always prefer working with what guys? Application context container, right? Compared to application context container, Bean Factory IOC container is lightweight. Overall, both IOC containers are lightweight container. In which what? Bean Factory container is more lightweight. Both are lightweight. Compared to Bean Factory, application context look like bit heavy, but overall lightweight category only. Overall what? Both are what? Lightweight category. See, Android mobile weight more, iOS mobile weight more. Android mobile lightweight, but both are lightweight components only. Maybe from few grams here and there. Super guys. Now we got, this is compulsory question guys. What is the difference between Bean Factory IOC container and application context IOC container? But this is also definitely a question. Where should I use Bean Factory IOC container and where should I use what? Application context IOC container. If Spring is used in memory, if Spring is used in memory sensitive applications like mobile application, embedded system application, IoT applications and etc., where one or two few extra kilobytes also matters, then prefer using what? Bean Factory IOC container. Then prefer using what? Bean Factory IOC container. Next. If Spring is used in web application, distributed application, enterprise applications and etc., where memory utilization does not matter, then prefer using what? Application context container. What container guys? Okay guys, next note. Spring is not popular in what? Mobile, embedded system application, Spring Boot frameworks known for developing what? Enterprise application. So prefer using application context container as your what? First choice container. What container guys? First. One side web application, another side what? Distribute. An enterprise application can be a web application or can be a distributed application. Are you getting my point there guys? Come on. Super. In latest Spring Boot projects, always prefer working with what? Application context container. That container you must have proper reason to convince yourself. That means what? If you are not using application context container, you should have a proper reason for not using it. 99.99% your requirement will be with what? Application context. No second thought in that. But if you want to have a reason for not, you are not using, that means you should have a reason to convince yourself. Are you getting my point there, guys? So final conclusion is, if your application is memory sensitive application, few extra kilobytes also matters in the size of the project. Maybe you are using Spring in mobile application. Maybe you are using Spring in IoT. We are controlling all electronic component through voice command, Alexa device, that one. In that situation, let us assume 1-2 kilobytes also matters, right? Okay, in that situation, it's better to work with what guys? Bean Factory IOC container. Otherwise, you have to think about working with application context. In Spring Boot, no question of using what? Bean Factory, only application context. If you are not using application context container, you should have a solid reason for convincing yourself. That is must. Okay. In latest Spring Boot project, always prefer working with what? Application context container. If you are not using that container, you must have proper reason to convince yourself. What is the difference between IOC and dependency injection? We already discussed this one now, my dear. Come on. IOC is the software specification providing rules and guidelines to manage the dependency among target and dependent Spring Bean classes. What classes? target and dependent Spring Bean classes. Are you getting my point? Okay. Based on those rules and guidelines, dependency injection, dependency lookup are the two implementation models. Dependency injection, dependency lookup are the two implementation models. Are you getting my point there, guys? Come on. IOC is like blueprint or theory or plan for managing dependency, whereas dependency lookup or dependency injection or the dependency lookup are the two implementation models or practicals of what? IOC specification. Of the IOC specification. Clear, my dear? Got the point, my dear? Come on. For IOC container of 100% code driven configuration, if we cannot give certain inputs or instructions through Java code and annotation, then how to pass such special instructions to IOC container? Are listen, in 100% code driven configuration, let us assume I am not able to give some inputs and instructions through Java statements and annotation. Then what is the option we have got? Then we have to use XML file. But how to link that XML file to IOC container? Link XML file with the configuration class. Anyhow, container is created by passing configuration class as the input file now, boss. Okay, answer. We can use this special instruction to IOC container through what? XML file. What? Spring Bean configuration file, generally application context.xml. By linking the file with what? Config class using annotation class with the configuration class or not, guys? Configuration file with what? Configuration class. What is the annotation I am using, guys? Okay, at the rate import resource. This is XML file. I am linking with the configuration class using what? At the rate import resource. Are you getting my point there or not there? Okay, to create the IOC. To create the IOC container. What is there, guys? Annotation config. Annotation config. What is there? Application context. CTX is equal to new annotation config. What is there? Application context of app config dot class. What dot class, guys? App con. Yeah, now you observe how things are happening here, guys. Yeah, first extra instruction which are not possible through annotations and Java statement XML file. We linked that XML file to configuration class. Perfect. And we are creating IOC container by taking configuration class as the input value now, my dear. Come on, everyone. By simply taking configuration class as the input value now, my dear. Come on, everyone. Okay. Conclusion. First, prefer giving all inputs and instructions to IOC container using Java code plus annotation. If they are not sufficient, then think about going for Spring Bean configuration file by linking with configuration class. What class, guys? By linking with what? Configuration class using at the rate import resource annotation. That is what we are telling now, boss. 100% code driven configuration approach. Is also called as what? Java config approach. Are Java configuration approach. 100% code means 100% Java code. To link Spring Bean configuration file, nothing but XML file with configuration class, use @import resource annotation. What annotation, guys? @import resource annotation. Perfect. To link one configuration class with what? Another configuration class, use @import annotation. Are you understanding my statement, guys? To link configuration file, nothing but XML file with configuration class. We need to use what? @import resource annotation to link one configuration class with what? Another configuration class. Use the support of what? @import annotation. @import annotation. What is the difference among setter injection, constructor injection, and what? Field injection. What is the difference among setter injection, constructor injection, and what? Field. Setter injection uses setter method for target class to assign given dependent value or object to target Spring Bean class object. Come on, guys. Uses parameterized constructor for the same. IOC container directly access the field or property of target Spring Bean for injection activity. For this, it internally uses reflection API or not, guys? For this, it internally uses reflection API or not, guys? Come on. We need to use property tag in what? XML driven configuration. For what injection? Setter injection. We need to use constructor-arg tag in XML driven configuration. For what injection, guys? Constructor injection. In XML driven, this one. Okay, can we go for field injection in XML driven configuration, guys? No, not possible in XML driven configuration. Yeah, that's great. Needs to use setter method with @auto-void to perform setter injection in annotation driven configurations. Are you getting my point? Needs to use parameterized constructors. What, guys? Needs to use parameterized constructor with @auto-void annotation to perform what? Constructor injection in annotation driven configuration. In annotation driven configuration. Okay, boss. Needs to place @auto-void on the top of what? Property or field in target Spring Bean class. What class, guys? Target Spring Bean class. Are you getting my point there, guys? Come on, everyone. Injects bit lately compared to what? Constructor injection or field injection. Order is what? 3. If all 3 are there, it is the third one. Injects the value or object first compared to setter injection or field injection. Okay, that means what? This is first setter injection, number 3 order. Constructor injection is number 1. Okay, injects bit lately compared to construction, bit early compared to setter injection. What is the order? 2. Order 2 is what? Order 1, this is what? Order 3. If I keep all the 3 injections back to back. If I keep all the 3 injections back to back. Super, guys. Next. This injection makes the IOC container to create what? Spring Bean class object using 0 param constructor. What constructor, guys? This injection makes the IOC container to create Spring Bean class object using what? Parameterized constructor. What constructor, my dear? Yeah, this injection happens because of what? Constructor injection. Are you understanding my statement, guys? Come on, everyone. Okay, guys. This injection makes IOC container to create Spring Bean class object using 0 param. This injection makes IOC container to create Spring Bean class object using what? Zero param constructor. This injection makes IOC container to create Spring Bean class object using what? Zero param. Array, during field injection, zero param. Using setter injection, zero param. Okay. Next, what is the last one, guys? Makes the IOC container to create target Spring Bean class object first, then creates and injects what? Dependent Spring Bean class. Array, in setter injection, first target, then dependent objects will be created. If at all pre-instantiation is not there, first target, then dependent. In constructor injection, first dependent, then target. Because using dependent, it will use target class constructor to create the object. Yeah, next one. Yeah, field injection, guys. First target, then dependent. First target, then what? Dependent. Clear, my dear? Come on, everyone. Support circular or cyclic dependency injection. A is dependent to B and B is dependent to A. A is dependent to B and B is dependent to A. Next one, does not support. Lastly, supports. Next one, does not support. Lastly, what, guys? Supports. Are you getting my point there, guys? Come on, everyone. Super. Setter injection, constructor injection. Next one is what? Field injection. Okay, guys. Tell me, cyclic injection support is there in setter injection. Constructor does not support. Field injection also definitely supports or not, guys. Okay, guys. Tell me. When should I use this? H. If the Spring Bean properties are optional to participate in. What is, guys? Optional to participate in what injection? Dependency injection. Then prefer what injection, guys? Saturn. Participate. Then prefer what, guys? Setter injection. Clear, my dear? Come on, everyone. Super. Okay. Next. If all the properties of Spring Bean are mandatory to participate in, injections, then prefer, what is there? Then prefer working with what injection, guys? Constructor injection. What injection? Constructor injection. Is that clear, my dear? Come on, everyone. Super. H. If the properties of Spring Bean are optional to participate in what, guys? Optional to participate in the injections. What, guys? Inject. Then prefer working with what injection? Field injection. Then simply you prefer working with what injection, guys? Field injection. Simply and literally you prefer dealing with what injection? Field injection. Convinced, my dear? Got the point, my dear? Come on, everyone. Okay. So these are the differences between all the things. In this particular presentation, we mainly concentrated on what? Differences between bean factory container and application con. That's the one thing. Then where should I use bean factory? Where should I use application context? In memory sensitive application, which are mobile applications or IoT applications, where 1 2 kilobytes also really matters. Okay, then we have to prefer working with what, guys? Yeah, definitely. We have to think about working with what? Bean factory IOC container. In remaining all situation, it's better to work with what, guys? Come on. Better to work with application context container or not, guys? Right. Second, next one. What is the difference between IOC and dependency injection? IOC is, what is IOC, guys? Specification, dependency lookup, injections are the implementation, right? Then we discussed about how to pass inputs to application when I cannot pass such inputs through annotations and Java code, XML file. How to link with XML file, how to link XML file with a container, XML file with configuration class to IOC container creation. This is what we discussed, my dear. Come on, everyone. Got the clarity, my dear. Come on. Super. Okay. Got the clarity, my dear. Fine. Let it be, boss. One more question. How to make our Spring application. What application? Spring application as 100% loosely coupled application. Loosely coupled. What application? Flexible application to change one dependent, one dependent Spring Bean with another dependent. What, guys? Another dependent Spring Bean without touching what, guys? Source code of the target Spring Bean class without touching source code of the target Spring Bean class. This is the query I am giving now, boss. Come on, everyone. Yes, answer. What is the answer, my dear? What is the answer we have to go for, guys? Yeah. Replace. No, no. This can be done in two ways. Can be done in two ways. Number one, using qualifier, using qualifier plus, okay, qualifier plus uh, properties file plus, okay, next Spring Bean configuration file plus what file? XML file plus Spring Bean configuration file plus XML file plus. Come on, everyone. Okay. Spring Bean configuration file, nothing but XML file. Then what? Alias tag. What tag, guys? Alias. And etc. And etc. Okay. Got it, my dear? Come on, everyone. Question, guys. Yeah, this is one option. Okay, another option is there. Okay, another option is there. Using B, using Spring profiles. What, guys? Using profiles concept in Spring, guys. Using profiles concept in Spring. Are you getting my point there, guys? Profiles concept. And this is the best. This is best. Okay, now let me say at to be discussed. What to be discussed, guys? At to be discussed. At to be discussed. We need to discuss it, guys. Come on, everyone. Qualifier, property file, Spring Bean configuration file, alias tag, and exit. But profiles I will discuss along with the Spring Boot, guys. Profiles can be learned in Spring Boot or Spring. Few topics I wantedly keeping for Spring Boot so that we have something to learn in Spring Boot also. But this is the best. This is the solution we already discussed. 2 days back we discussed this solution, right? Okay, guys. How to make our code as 100% loosely coupled code. Yes, guys. Next one, what is there? Last important topic of Spring Core module. That is Spring Bean life cycle. What is that? Simply nothing but what? Spring Bean life cycle. Shall we start understanding what is Spring Bean life cycle, guys? Already we know what is life cycle. Taking care of everything from birth to death is called what? Life cycle management or not? Taking care of everything from what? Birth to death is nothing but life cycle. Is nothing but taking care of life cycle. What do you say, guys? Come on, everyone. Who take care of Spring Bean life cycle? Who take care of Spring Bean life cycle? I want reply from you people. IOC container. What are the things that will be taken care as part of IOC life cycle activities? What are the things that will be taken care as part of what? Life cycle activities. I want reply from you people. What are the things that will be taken care, guys? Loading classes, creating object, assigning one object with another object, managing object, calling life cycle method. All these things will be taken care automatically. If needed, it will destroy the object also, na boss. Yeah, while destruction, IOC container uses its own garbage collector or it will use JVM's garbage collector. No, it will use its own garbage collector. Why, sir? JVM garbage collector principle is mark and sweep principle. First, mark the object for which no references are there. If no references are there, then we will destroy it. But when it comes to IOC container or servlet container, though object is in utilization, though multiple references are there pointing to object, we seriously need to destroy the object. We seriously need to what? Destroy the object. Are you getting my point there, guys? So that means it uses its own garbage collector or not, guys? Even servlet container also, boss. No mark and sweep algorithm. It uses its own garbage collector. Once a destruction event is raised, even the object is underutilization, serious utilization, it is referred by 10 reference variable, then also it has to be destroyed. But garbage collector of JVM is not like that. It will destroy only those objects that are marked with no references. That are marked with what? No references. Okay, array, no algorithm, boss. No algorithm. It's like as and soon it finds the section is required, it will destroy. Life cycle means keeping track of all the activities from birth to death, object creation to object destruction. IOC container manages what? Spring bean life cycle. Servlet container manages what? Servlet component life cycle. JSP container manages what? JSP component life cycle. Okay. Yeah. IOC container life cycle activities on Spring Bean are activities on Spring Bean are number one, loading Spring Bean class. Number two, instantiating the Spring Bean. Instantiating the Spring Bean. Come on, everyone. Loading Spring Bean class, instantiating the Spring Bean. Creating, managing, managing the Spring Bean class object. Okay. Calling the life cycle methods. What methods, guys? Life cycle methods. Next. Okay. Destroying the Spring Bean class object. Destroying the Spring Bean class object. Simply destroying the Spring Bean class object. Convinced, my dear? Come on, everyone. Right. Destroying the Spring Bean class object. Okay. Final conclusion here. JVM, JVM garbage collector. JVM garbage collect. JVM's garbage collector algorithm is, what is this? Algorithm is JVM garbage collector algorithm is mark and sweep algorithm. What algorithm, guys? Mark and sweep algorithm. Mark and sweep algorithm. That means, okay, first, that means first it marks the objects that are not having any references. It marks the objects that are not having any reference. Later, destroys all the objects. Destroys those objects. Okay, right. Servlet container, JSP container. Okay, next one. IOC container uses its own algorithm. What is that? Its own algorithm. Uses its own algorithm. For what purpose, guys? Servlet container, JSP container, IOC container uses its own algorithm. Its own what? Algorithm. Sorry, it uses its own garbage collector. Its own garbage collector. Not the JVM's garbage collector. Not the JVM's garbage collector. It uses its own garbage collector, uses their own garbage collector, not the JVM's garbage collector to destroy. What is this? Spring Bean class objects to destroy. What is there, guys? Spring Bean class object. Are you getting my point there, guys? To simply destroy Spring Bean class object. Because the IOC container needs to destroy Spring Bean class object, though object is in utilization. Though the object is in utilization. Though object is in utilization. Are you getting my point there, guys? Come on, everyone. Super. Right. So that's why though servlet is in utilization, servlet contain destroys it because it has got its own garbage collect. But when it comes to JVM or standalone application, until references are there, garbage collector cannot destroy the object. Is that clear? Okay, leave it, guys. Yeah. Who manages Spring Bean lifecycle? IOC can. Who manages servlet component lifecycle? Servlet. Okay. The action raised on the component or object in the life cycle of the component is called as what? Life cycle event. Yes, na boss? The action raised on the component or what? Object is called life cycle event. Servlet component life cycle events are what, guys? Number one, instantiation event. What is that event, guys? Okay, number one, instantiation event. Number two, request processing event. Number three, distraction event. These are servlet component lifecycle events. Okay, when instantiation event rises when servlet container creates our servlet component class object. Request processing event rises when servlet container keeps our servlet component class object ready, boss. Destruction event arises when servlet container is about to destroy our servlet component class object or not, guys. Okay, Spring Bean life cycle events are, what are those? Spring Bean life cycle events are, okay, Spring Bean life cycle events are, number one, instantiation event, init event. Number two, what? Destruction event. That is what? Destruct. Only two events are there. IOC container lies how many life cycle event in Spring Bean, guys? Two. Instantiation and what? Destruct. When instantiation event rises, guys, instantiation event rises when container creates Spring Bean class object, completes all injections on it, then instantiation event rises. When destruction event rises, boss, when container is about to destroy Spring Bean class object, next activity is a destruction only. Next work is what? Destruction only. Are you getting my point there? Yeah, at that time destruction event will be raised or not, guys? At that time destruction event will be raised or not, guys? Rises when the IOC container is about to destroy our Spring Bean class object, na boss? Come on. Rises when IOC container creates Spring Bean class object and completes all types of injections on that object. All types of injections on that object. Are you getting my point there, guys? Come on, everyone. Yeah. Can I call these life cycle methods as callback methods, guys? Okay, now listen. Events are called life cycle events. The method that will be called automatically for life cycle events are called what? Container callback methods, nothing but life cycle methods. Container callback methods, nothing but what? Life cycle methods. Convinced, my dear? Got the point, my dear? I want reply, my dear. Come on. The method that is called by underlying container automatically when the life cycle event is raised is called life cycle event handling method or life cycle method. We generally place event handling logics in what? Life cycle event handling method definition of in our choice components. What components, guys? In our choice components. Are you comfortable, my dear? Come on, everyone. We generally place event handling logics in life cycle event handling method definitions in our choice components. In our choice component. The life cycle methods are called callback methods because we don't call them. That means they will be called by underlying container automatically. They will be called by underlying container automatically based on the life cycle events that are raised. What, guys? Based on the life cycle events that are raised. Okay, now tell me, guys. What is life cycle? Keeping track of everything from birth to death, object creation to object destruction. Who manages Spring Bean life cycle? Okay, boss. In the life cycle of servlet component, how many life cycle events are there? Instantiation, request processing, destruction. When servlet container creates our servlet component class object, instantiation event. Ready to process request, request processing event. About to destroy object, destruction event. Clear, my dear? Got the point, my dear? I want reply, my dear. Okay, right. The method that is called automatically in the life cycle of Spring Bean or any this one is called life cycle method or not? Super. In Spring Bean life cycle, how many life cycle events are there? Two. Instantiation, destruction. When instantiation event rises, guys, when IOC container creates Spring Bean class object and also completes injections on that object. Also completes injections on that object, right, boss? When destruction event will be raised, the destruction event will be raised when Spring Bean is IOC container is about to destroy Spring Bean class object. About to destroy the Spring Bean class object. Convinced, my dear? Got the point, my dear? Come on, everyone. Super, guys. Next. In your human being life cycle also, life cycle events are there. If you feel, if you believe in God, God manages human being life cycle, human life cycle. What are the important actions of human being? Birth, naming ceremony, start of schooling, end of schooling, getting into professional life. Marriage is a big event. Yes or no, na? Next one, retirement from professional life. Okay, death. Yes or no, na, boss? These are the life cycle events. For every event, some ceremonies will happen, na? Naming ceremony, big event. Everything is big event, right? Yes. The method that is, okay, whatever the method that is called automatically for life cycle event is called life cycle method. Is called life cycle method. We generally place event handling logics in life cycle event handling method definition of in our choice components. Life cycle event handling method definition of in our choice component. The life cycle methods are called callback method because we don't call them. That means they will be called by underlying container automatically based on the life cycle events that are raised. Based on the life cycle events that are raised. Is it not interesting, my dear? Come on. Okay. Servlet component life cycle methods are For instantiation event, what method? Init method. So we place servlet initialization logic in this method, like what? Creating JDBC connection object and etc. Like what, guys? Creating JDBC connection object and what? Etc. Are you getting my point there, guys? Come on, everyone. Super. For instantiation event, init method is called, and here is the story. Request processing event. What is their service method? So we place request processing logic and what? Response generation logic in this method. What method, guys? Next, what is there? Destruction event. What is the lifecycle method? Destroy. We place logics to release what? Non-Java resources associated with what? Servlet component. Here is what? Closing JDBC connection. What is there? Closing JDBC connection. Comfortable, my dear? Come on, everyone. Is the same as service method of @service? Array, @service is what? Spring annotation. I'm talking about what? Method name in servlet lifecycle. Use common sense, Vikram. Okay. Your name is Vikram. Central government launched one military operation called Vikram. Okay. And if you say both are same, I means not same. Yes or no, na? Okay. Your name is Vikram. Central government announced one award, national award for bravery people, Vikram Chakra, something like that. So they say that should come to me because my name is Vikram. Means is it going to work out? No, that is different. This is different. And why are you mixing up Spring and Servlet together? I'm just taking Servlet life cycle to tell that, oh, not only Spring life cycle, Servlet also life cycle is there. And now you'll understand. Definitely you'll understand. I know that. Yeah, these are the three events in Servlet life cycle. Init method, service method, destroy methods are life cycle methods. In init method, we place initialization logic. In service method, we place request processing logics. In destroy method, we write uninitialization logic. Creating JDBC connection, we place where? Init method. Writing request processing logic, we place what? Doing a business calculation, other thing. And in the destroy method, we can write uninitialization logics or not, guys. Uninitialization logic, we can write what? Okay, uninitialization logics are not, guys. I want reply, boss. Come on, everyone. What is the need of life cycle methods in any container managed? Any container managed component development. What's the use? A container only says I am taking care of everything, right? Container only says I am taking care of everything. Are you understanding my statement, guys? Container only says I am taking care of what? Everything. Generally, the container manages whole life cycle of the component, right from loading the class to, okay, creating object to, managing object to, destroying object. In this process, the programmer wants to execute is choice logic. Though everything is done by container, but class is developed by me, we want to keep our own choice logics, na? Okay, then we ask container, you are taking care of everything. What is my role? How can I keep my logic? Then says, I raise 3 life cycle events or some life cycle event. I call life cycle method. If you provide, I will take your method logics. If you don't provide, I will try to care what? Superclass logics. By overriding life cycle method in our component, we can write our choice logics, na? Like In the init method, establishing connection with the database. Destroy method, closing connection with the database. In the service method, come on, using connection, talking to database, getting the data, processing data. Like these multiple activities we can perform or not, guys? Like these multiple activities we can perform or not, guys? Come on, I want reply, my dear. Come on, everyone. Super, guys. So that those logics will be executed automatically when the container calls lifecycle method for those lifecycle events. Are you comfortable, my dear? Come on, everyone. For this, container says override lifecycle method in the component having what? Programmer choice logic. So the logics will be executed automatically when the container calls what? Lifecycle method for those lifecycle events. Convinced, my dear? Got the point, my dear? Come on, everyone. Okay. Servlet component is invasive or non-invasive? Invasive. That means you want to develop Java class as servlet component. Directly, indirectly, your class must implement servlet interface or not. Directly, indirectly, your class must implement servlet interface or not, guys. Come on, everyone. Okay. So from that interface, some methods will come as a fixed methods, guys. Can we call them as lifecycle methods, right? Servlet component is invasive component. What component, guys? Invasive. So the servlet lifecycle methods are predefined methods with fixed signatures. What signatures, guys? Spring Bean lifecycle method names are not fixed because Spring Beans can be developed as what? Non-invasive classes. What classes, guys? Most of the time we prefer taking Spring Beans as what? Non-invasive classes. What classes, guys? Non-invasive classes. In Spring Bean lifecycle configuration, we need to configure lifecycle methods explicitly, either using what? XML configurations or what? Annotation. Okay. Spring Beans are non-invasive. Any class can become Spring Bean. So can we have fixed lifecycle methods, guys? Any user-defined class can become. No need of implementing any Spring interfaces. So can we have fixed methods as the lifecycle methods? No. So every lifecycle method you have to design and you have to tell. Out of 10 method, only these two are my lifecycle methods. One has init lifecycle method, other one has what? Destroy lifecycle method. These are also called custom init method, custom destroy method, right? Because they are completely our choice now, boss. Spring Bean lifecycle configuration. We need to configure lifecycle methods explicitly. What, guys? We need to configure lifecycle method explicitly, either using XML configurations or using what? Annotation configuration. Are you getting my point there, guys? Come on, everyone. Spring Bean init lifecycle method will be called by IOC container automatically. When the IOC container creates Spring Bean class object and completes all kinds of injections on that object. The IOC container calls Spring Bean destroy lifecycle method when IOC container is about to destroy our what? Spring Bean class object. About to destroy our what? Spring Bean class object. Convinced, my dear? Got the point, my dear? Okay, lifecycle methods in Spring Bean are. We are talking about lifecycle methods in Spring Bean are. Lifecycle event, instantiation event. Next one, lifecycle method, custom init method. Logics to initialize leftover properties of Spring Bean class that are not participating in any kind of what? Injection. That is initialization logics, guys. Come on, everyone. Okay. Array, in the init lifecycle method, what logics we write? There are so many properties, few properties not participating in any injection. Can I initialize them by using custom init method? When exactly init lifecycle method executes, guys? The init lifecycle method execute not right after instantiation. Spring Bean instantiation plus injection. Okay, after completing injections, right after injection, before keeping Spring Bean object ready for what? Execution by keeping in IOC container. So that means init lifecycle method execute after completion of instantiation and injection. So that's why in custom init method, come on, we can check. In custom init method, we can check whether leftover property, whether two things we can do, guys. Number one, leftover properties we can initialize because some properties not participating in injection, you can go. For example, there is a data verification property. I want to initialize with the system date. DOE, data verification is equal to new data. That's the one thing. Already, few other properties are participating in the injection. Na? I want to check whether those important properties are injected with correct values or not. Are you noticing it, guys? In custom init method, we can write two logic. Number one, initialize those properties that are not participating in the injection. Number two, what is number two, guys? If already few properties are injected, we can check whether correct values are injected or not. We can check whether correct values are what? Injected or not. Are you getting my point there or not? Come on, everyone. Yes. Yeah. Destruction event. To nullify Spring Bean properties by assigning with what? 0, 0.0, null, false to Spring Bean properties. This is uninitialization logic, guys. To release non-Java resources associated with the Spring Beans, like closing connection, closing IO streams, and this kind of thing. So in the init lifecycle method, two things, initialization logic and checking whether important properties are injected with the correct values or not. Okay, next one, guys. In destroy lifecycle method, what is there, guys? Okay, we are going to check whether we are going to uninitialize the property. We are going to nullify the properties. If a Spring Bean is associated with the non-Java resources, they will be closed. They will be released, guys. Are you getting my point there, guys? Come on, everyone. The standard signature of custom init, custom destroy methods in Spring Bean lifecycle is public void method name, no parameter. You should not pass any parameter. Any name can be taken as the method name because that's why they are called custom init and custom destroy methods, na boss. Custom init method, any. Yeah, no parameter. This is the signature. We must follow this signature while designing custom init lifecycle method, custom destroy lifecycle method forward Spring Bean. We must and should follow this signature. Compulsory, we should follow this signature. Convinced with me, my dear. Come on, everyone. Mandatorily, you have to follow this signature. No second thought in that. Super. In total, how many ways we can configure Spring Bean lifecycle methods? Spring Bean lifecycle methods are what? Custom init, custom destroy. Since the Spring Bean is non-invasive, no fixed methods, right, guys? Declarative approach using XML tags, we are going to tell. Out of these 10 methods, this method is init lifecycle method. This method is what? Destroy lifecycle method. But when XML itself outdated, are we entertaining XML nowadays? No. Bad approach because of what? XML configuration. Next, what is there? Programmatic approach. What approach, guys? Programmatic approach. Okay. Programmatic approach. We make Spring Bean class implementing some interfaces. Based on, from that interface, some fixed methods will be taken as what? Life cycle method. What are those two interfaces? Initializing bean, disposable bean. What's the interface one? Initializing bean. What's the other one? Disposable bean. Total, how many interfaces we have to implement, guys? One is initializing bean interface, other one is what? Disposable bean interface, right? Bad because Spring Bean becomes what? Invasive. If we are making your Spring Bean class, implementing initializing bean, disposable bean interface, you are applied by Spring Bean. So Spring Bean has become invasive. Invasive means what? Tightly coupled with the Spring API. Non-invasive means what? Loosely coupled. Okay, since initializing bean is having after properties set method that will act as init lifecycle method. Disposable bean interface is having destroy method. So the destroy method will act as what? Lifecycle method. What, guys? The destroy method will start acting as what? Lifecycle method. That's great. Makes the Spring Bean as what? Invasive. Exceptional case. Spring Bean class should implement initializing bean and disposable bean. Initializing bean is having which method, guys? After properties set method. What method? After properties set method. Becomes init lifecycle method. It definitely becomes what method, guys? Init lifecycle. Yes, guys. Next, other side, what is there? It gives destroy method. What method, guys? Destroy. Becomes destroy life cycle method. Which method, guys? Destroy life cycle method. Declarative approach, programmatic. Programmatic approach problem is you need not to configure lifecycle method. You make Spring Bean implementing two interfaces, initializing bean, disposable bean. Initializing bean contains after properties set that become init lifecycle method. Disposable bean contains what? Destroy method that becomes what? Destroy lifecycle. But this approach is bad approach. Why? Because okay, it is making Spring Bean as what? Non-invasive or invasive? Invasive. Super, guys. Annotation configuration approach. This is the best approach because nowadays everyone is developing application based on which one, guys? Annotation. Simply using which concept, guys? Annotation. Okay. So here two annotations are there to configure user-defined methods as lifecycle method. One is post construct, other one is pre-destroy. Post construct to make init method. One method has init lifecycle method at the rate post construct. Okay, to make another method as what? Destroy lifecycle method at the rate pre-destroy. Best because no need of XML configuration and Spring Bean can be non-invasive. XML is not there and you can take a normal class as what? Spring Bean. You have to configure lifecycle methods by using how many annotation? Two annotation. JDK supplied annotations like what? Post construct and pre-destroy. Here lifecycle method names are custom names having what? Annotation. At the rate post construct, come on. To configure Java method as init lifecycle method. At the rate pre-destroy to configure Java method as what? Destroy lifecycle method. Is IOC container creating Spring Bean class object by using init custom init method logics, guys? No. IOC container is having its own logic to create what? Spring Bean class object. Okay. Custom init method is used as an additional hookup to execute some logic after creating object after completing injections. But I don't think that because of init method logic, our Spring Bean object is created. No. Custom init method is non-static method that is called on our Spring Bean class object. So we cannot say, okay, because of custom init method, our Spring Bean class object is created. No. First object is created on the top of the object, init method is called. On the top of the object, init method is called. Are you understanding my statement, guys? IOC container its own reflection API logics to create Spring Bean class object. So it is not using what? Custom init method logic to create Spring Bean class object. To create what, guys? Spring Bean class objects. Are you getting my point? Since the IOC container calls init lifecycle method, what method? On IOC container is not using init lifecycle method to create Spring Bean class object. Actually, what's happening, guys? First object is created, then injection, then init method. Okay, because I will tell. Because of constructor object is created, or first object is created, in that process constructor executed. JVM creates the object, in that process constructor execute. Don't think that because of constructor object is created, wrong. Is IOC container destroying Spring Bean class object using the logics of custom destroy method? No. IOC container uses its own garbage collector, logics to destroy the Spring Bean class object. To destroy the Spring Bean class object. Destroy lifecycle method execute just before the garbage collection to execute some uninitialization logic with respect to Spring Bean class object destruction. With respect to Spring Bean class object destruction. Are you getting my point there, guys? Come on, everyone. Destroy method is not destroying, boss. Container uses its own garbage collector for destruction, right? Just before destruction, okay, the destroy method executes so that whatever uninitialization logic that you have placed, they will be executed. Next. Is it mandatory to configure or place lifecycle method in Spring Bean class development? So far, are we configuring any lifecycle methods? No. Optional, but it's recommended to do. So far, we developed so many Spring Beans, guys. Nearly 14, 15 projects we completed. Right? Are we taking any lifecycle method configuration? No. If you want to get that extra hooks to your application execution, whenever Spring Bean object is created and injected, I want to check, okay, whether important properties are injected with the correct values or not. Number one. Number two. Okay, what is number two? What is number two, guys? I want to check. I want to initialize leftover properties. For those two things, we have to think about going for this process now, boss. Come on, everyone. Destroy method to nullify bean properties and to release non-Java resource associated with. So init method is not creating Spring Bean object. Destroy method is not destroying Spring Bean object. Everything is done by IOC container. But these two method logics will act as what? Extensions to complete our operations. Okay. Is it mandatory to configure or place the lifecycle method in Spring Bean class development? What is that? Optional. The IOC container looks to execute lifecycle methods of Spring Bean only when they are configured. only when they are configured, either using XML configurations or what? Annotation configuration or interfaces implementation. Though IOC container lifecycle event, it will not look to execute lifecycle method if no methods of Spring Bean are configured as what? Lifecycle methods. So servlet, if you don't, lifecycle methods are if not there in our class, it will call from super class, right? But in Spring Bean, which is non-invasive, loosely coupled with the Spring API, until unless you configure lifecycle method, no lifecycle methods will be called. Lifecycle events are raised, but it founds. Are there any lifecycle method configuration? No. That's why no lifecycle methods will be called if you don't configure them. So that means configuring lifecycle method in Spring Bean, keeping lifecycle method in Spring Bean, optional or mandatory? Is it optional work or mandatory work? Is it optional or mandatory? Definitely optional. Can I upload the notes now? Yeah. Tell me what is there. What's your batch code? 5:30 p.m., right? Spring Core. Tomorrow is the last class for Spring Core module. Okay, day after tomorrow onwards, you'll be having sessions on Spring Boot Core. You'll be having sessions on what? Spring Boot Core. Clear, guys? Come on, everyone. Super. Okay, tell me next. 618. Here is my 618. So, okay, Spring Boot Core. On. It's not 618, it's a 515. 515, right. Spring Core. Where is this? 17 and 18 and container, these two things. Yeah, today is 17th March. Yeah, 18th document also given, don't worry. Tomorrow document also today only given, but still that document is pending, right? Fine. Yeah, thank you guys. We'll stop here. We'll continue from tomorrow. After tomorrow onwards, we'll be having sessions on Spring Boot Core. That will run for 10-12 days because we already got a lot of fundamental. Then Spring Data JP